crazy enough, guys. Look who I ran into. This guy's real big, real jacked. He says, why do I call him on the internet? This is why I asked. And again, you could say...
So you got to do that for camera. You can't have a private conversation like an adult. You can only do things for the internet. You can't have a private conversation.
Because what I have to say is factual, and you guys...
It's not factual.
So you guys, let me tell you why I don't... Would I like to get free money from this guy? Yeah, sure. Would I pay me money for...
But Sean, when I just asked you, hey, have a conversation...
Well, you asked me why I called you a scumbag.
Then you need to have your camera. You can only talk on the internet.
But I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I called you a scumbag.
Only on the internet.
But I'll tell you why I called you a scumbag.
You're the one being the friend.
No, I'll tell you why.
I'm saying it to your face.
I'll tell you why.
You're the one being the friend.
I love my fans more than any of you guys. And would I love to go take free money from this guy and peddle? Yeah, would I love to make free money from this guy? I would. I absolutely would love to. But this man takes advantage of low-paid UFC fighters who are great men, who are just trying to make their mortgage and live a life. And he takes advantage of these men, and he uses their platform to peddle financial scams, and he shoes people. And what he does is so dishonest and so scummy that, no, I will not. Just because you're nice and you shake my hand and you say you're my buddy, no. You are a fraud. You are dishonest. You fraud people. This is why you don't want to be on camera, because you know...
There are collisions that feel staged, and there are collisions that feel inevitable. Anyone who has spent time in gyms, locker rooms, or green rooms knows the difference. The energy is thicker, the pauses are heavier, the smiles are tight instead of loose. That's what hung over the air when Sean Strickland squared up verbally with Derek Moneyberg. It wasn't a brawl, at least not in the physical sense. It was something more contemporary, a confrontation built for the age of live streams, cameras rolling, and audiences hungry for a morality play. Strickland's career has been defined by intensity. Inside the cage, he fights with a deliberate forward pressure, always marching, always cutting off the space. Outside the cage, he has carried that same posture into interviews, press conferences, social media. He does not hide behind publicists or carefully massaged statements. He speaks like a man who thinks that directness is a form of self-defense. That's why when he found himself in a room with a figure like Moneyberg, a man whose business model has been dogged by accusations of manipulation, lawsuits, and financial opportunism, the encounter had the inevitability of two tectonic plates grinding. The surface narrative is simple. A professional fighter confronts someone he believes preys on fighters. But under the surface, there is a richer story about power, vulnerability, and what it means to call someone out in an era when reputations are both global and fragile. Mixed martial arts is a sport built on contradictions. Its athletes are global celebrities who train in small, windowless gyms. They are hailed as warriors, yet often paid like journeymen. They sign contracts that can leave them broke, injured, and invisible once the spotlight moves on. Strickland has never been shy about pointing out that gap between the mythology of the UFC and the economic reality of its roster. So when he spoke to Moneyberg, he wasn't just a fighter speaking to a self-help guru. He was a working-class athlete confronting someone he sees as extracting value from a working class. His body language, forward-leaning, hands gesturing, voice pitched to cut through noise, wasn't the swagger of a man chasing clout. It was the posture of a man saying, enough. This is important to understand because in the world of combat sports, the hustle is everywhere. There are nutritionists selling magic regimens, managers promising sponsorships, promoters dangling exposure in exchange for pennies. Fighters learn early that everyone wants a piece. Strickland's outburst tapped into that collective resentment. He became, in that moment, a proxy for every underpaid athlete who has watched someone else monetize their name while they bleed for a paycheck. Derek Moneyberg occupies a different archetypal slot. He represents the success coach, the financial mentor, the man who says he has cracked the code and will teach you for a fee. This archetype thrives in a social media economy built on scarcity and aspiration. In the old days, such figures ran late-night infomercials or rented hotel ballrooms. Today, they build slick Instagram pages, host masterminds, and attach themselves to influencers to borrow credibility. Moneyberg's proximity to fighters, his use of their platforms to promote his brand, is not unique. This is a well-worn tactic. stand next to someone whose body symbolizes discipline and sacrifice, and imply that your own methods produce similar results. Strickland's fury wasn't only personal, it was an attack on that tactic itself. When a fighter accuses someone of scamming, it resonates differently than when a journalist does. Journalists are expected to scrutinize. Fighters are expected to stay in their lane. When a fighter breaks that expectation and goes on the offensive, it feels raw, unscripted, real. What makes this episode distinctly 2020s is the way it unfolded on camera. Once upon a time, a confrontation like this might have happened in a locker room or at a bar after an event with only a handful of witnesses. Now every room is a stage. Every exchange is content. The smartphone is the new referee. Strickland seemed aware of this, but unbothered by it. His voice rose not in a rehearsed cadence, but in the jagged rhythm of someone who has reached his limit. He wasn't delivering a press conference. He was venting live, letting the world watch a private frustration become public. That's part of what made button-style commentary resonate with fans, the feeling of being present at something unscripted. Moneyberg, for his part, looked like a man caught between two instincts, to defend himself vigorously or to retreat behind platitudes. In the age of viral clips, the optics of a confrontation matter as much as the facts. Every expression, every pause, every attempt at deflection becomes a meme. Audiences crave villains. They crave heroes even more. In this scenario, the roles seemed clear. Strickland the righteous fighter, Moneyberg the shady operator. But reality is rarely that neat. What is clear is that Strickland believed he was standing up for something larger than himself, for other fighters, for principle, for the idea that people's hard work shouldn't be exploited. That belief gave the scene its moral charge. Without that belief, it would just be a shouting match. With it, it became a kind of public service announcement. This is where the button-style analysis finds its groove, unpacking not just the moment, but the layers of culture that produce it. There's a risk in doing what Strickland did. Fighters, like all public figures, are subject to contracts, defamation laws, and the unpredictable backlash of social media. Calling someone a fraud on camera can invite lawsuits, countersuits, or at least waves of online trolling. But the power of authenticity often outweighs those risks. Audiences are increasingly cynical about curated personas. They reward the raw, the messy, the unpolished. Strickland's reputation as a no-filter straight talker was only reinforced by this moment. He embodied a kind of transparency that feels rare in a landscape of NDAs and PR spin. Even people who might not follow the ins and outs of the UFC could recognize the archetype, the working man calling out the slick-talking guru. To really understand why this resonated, you have to look at the economics of fighting. Most fighters outside the top 5% live on modest purses, supplemented by side jobs, seminars, or small sponsorships. They train like Olympians but are paid like minor league baseball players. Into that gap flow 1,000 would-be benefactors promising to monetize your brand or teach you financial freedom. Strickland's outburst wasn't a one-off grievance. It was a symptom of an industry where desperation creates a market for exploitation. Whether or not every accusation he hurled is provable in court, the emotional truth of it, the feeling of being used, is undeniable to anyone who has been in similar shoes.